Because we've been through so much in just the first 2 weeks, I've scheduled a review day for form and structure classes. So what's the difference? If you had to define the difference in one word, form classes are about content, structure classes are all about connection. Structure classes, 7 different kinds, connect your content words when needed. Nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs are your form classes, and your structure classes are listed here on the right. I'm not going to review everything, but I am going to review quite a bit of it, so hang on. On test 1, I am going to ask you, what is our advanced grammar definition of a noun? If you put person, place, or thing, I am not going to give you any credit, and I'm going to draw a really, really sad face because we will have gone over this definition multiple times. Our advanced definition has 3 or 4 parts depending on how you look at it. It can be made plural and possessive. Nouns are usually signaled by a determiner, and they occupy the headword position of a noun phrase. What's a determiner again? Determiners are one of the structure classes. Articles, a and the, are determiners, and several types of pronouns are also determiners. You might want to check your notes or go back to an earlier video to see what types of pronouns fall into this determiner class. So it's only fair to then review what's our advanced grammar definition of a verb. If you put action word, I will cry, and you don't want to make your teacher cry. Verbs have present and past tense. They have an S form, that's our third person singular, and they also have a participle, your ing form. When you are asked, what's the advanced definition of a verb? This is what I want to see, so commit it to memory. Here we have some sentence diagrams. No, we haven't covered diagramming yet. Yes, we will. But I want you to look at these carefully. What kind of verbs are in orange here? And what structure class is used to make them? So we have chatted up, we have made up. And notice that this verb can sort of be split. These are examples of phrasal verbs. That's a verb plus a particle. That's another one of our structure classes. That's a special type of preposition that you can add to a verb. And remember, one of the defining characteristics of phrasal verbs is you can split up the verb and particle in your sentence. And here's a nice way to think about it. 3 sets of opposites, up, down, in, out, on, off. These are your particles that create phrasal verbs. While we're talking about things that we can move around, I want to review prepositional phrases. Prepositions are a structure class, and a prepositional phrase is a preposition plus a determiner plus a noun. The reason they're so flexible, they can act as adverbs or they can act as adjectives. Here's a picture. There's a kitten, there's a box. I want you to take a minute, take 20 seconds, however long it takes you. Write 2 sentences about this photo. One with an adverbial prepositional phrase, so one where your prepositional phrase modifies a verb, and then one with an adjectival, modifying a noun. If you need to pause the video, you certainly can. Here are some examples. The kitten could be where in the box. If you look, verb, where in the box, you'll find a kitten. Or I could try and get a little more creative. The box is around the kitten. These are all adverbial. My prepositional phrase in green modifies the verb. I can also use the exact same prepositional phrase as an adjective. Instead of describing the verb, I'm suddenly describing the noun. The kitten in the box is freaky. The Postal Service does not accept kittens in boxes. Again, we're modifying the noun. So this prepositional phrase is acting as an adjective. We also went through a couple different tests for determining do we have adjectives and or adverbs. One of the greatest tests for adverbs is movability. You'll notice in the sentences I wrote, my adverb appeared all over the place. Adjectives can't move. They tend to be stuck. If I can add ly to a word and get an adverb, I'm probably dealing with an adjective. I can distinguish adverbs and adjectives from the other form classes, from structure classes, with a qualifier test. I can modify them with very. I can't say very apple or very if. It really only works with adverbs and adjectives. And then adjectives have a special test frame where you fill in this blank. You use any noun you want. So here are 3 words. Run them through whatever test you want to determine, are we dealing with adjectives, adverbs, or neither? So delightful, if I add ly, delightfully, that sounds like a word. I would say the delightful party. The delightful party is very delightful. I'm probably dealing with an adjective here. Delightful, adjective. Now what about well? We often struggle over whether to say well or good. Well, can I add ly to it? Welly? Not unless I am talking about a specific kind of British rain gear. Can I move it around? Can I put it in the modifier part of a noun phrase? Can I say the well boy is very well? Doesn't sound right. Can I say very well? Yes. So it's either an adjective or an adverb. What do you think? Make up your mind. And this is something we're actually going to start class with. Well, adjective or adverb? And finally, dubious. This might be a word you're familiar with. You might not be. I wanted to throw it in there on the off chance that you are not familiar with it to see what do you do when you don't even know what the word means. Dubiously. I guess that's okay, but I'm not sure what dubious means. Very dubious. What if I told you that dubious means doubtful? The dubious legal case is very dubious. I can add ly on the end. This is an adjective. Sometimes you just have to turn to your dictionary to check the part of speech, because all of these tests can get a little trickier if you don't even know what your word means. One of the exercises we did was taking adjectives through all of the other form classes. So here's my sample sentence. The wicked queen was envious of Snow White. So go ahead, on the same piece of scratch paper you've been using, transform this adjective envious into a noun, a verb, and an adverb. Use them in sentences about the queen and Snow White. Pause the video again to give yourself some time to complete this exercise, and then go ahead and proceed to see some examples. I've started off with an adverb, because adjective to adverb, I can add ly, and it works in this case. She looked, how did she look? Enviously. It's an adverb modifying my past tense verb looked. The verb form is actually to envy. The queen had envied the girl's beauty for years. I made it into my participle form. She found herself envying the lover. And then there's the noun form, envy. Envy drove the queen to murder most foul. In this case, envy is the noun and to envy is the verb. This could be confusing for some students. You'll notice in the second example, I'm using a helping verb. The queen had envied. I could have simply said the queen envied the girl's beauty. But I chose to use another one of our structure classes, auxiliaries. Auxiliaries include the helping verbs, be, have, and do, am, is, was, were, does, did, has, have, had. and modals that shade or shift the meaning of my verb. Could, should, may. So here's some examples in keeping with my Snow White theme. Snow White could live with the dwarfs. She does feel safer with them. The queen is plotting revenge. These actually could be a nice little paragraph. And you'll notice I've used an auxiliary in every single one. Because we do use auxiliaries so frequently, this can be confusing to students. Why can't I say Snow White do live with dwarfs? Why can't I say she has feel safer? The queen does plotting revenge. Then we get into some of our verb issues, which we're going to cover with Chapter 3. Another structure class, pronouns. Pronouns can be defined by number, one or many, person, first, second, or third, and case. As we discussed, be very aware when you're using their in the singular. If you are taking a standardized test, like your teacher certification exams, the GRE, there is always plural. It is a very prescriptive approach to grammar. Now, what about those reflexive pronouns, the self pronouns? Best rule of thumb, you need a subject to reflect back to. I lost myself. In the second example, though, Aaron finished the project for me. He didn't finish it for myself because I am not in the beginning of the sentence. Aaron is. Aaron would finish the project for himself. Jess volunteered both herself and Mo. I can use herself in this case because Jess is there as the subject. So if you have any questions, use the comment box that'll be available in the Google survey, your quiz for the next class. And look forward to some fun activities.